Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back into the card closet. This is Eric, and I'm doing something a little different tonight. I've got my old best friend, Thomas Binger, who you probably all have seen on the TV in the last month or two. He was the lead prosecutor in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. He's a long friend of mine. We're figuring out we've been friends since 1976, and best friends at that. There never was a time, elementary, junior, or senior high, where if you come up to me and said, Eric, who's your best friend? Tom was the answer all the way through. So, Tom, thanks for joining me.
It's good to see you again, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. So,
we were in kindergarten together, for all of those that are watching. We were in, was that Ms. Lickness?
Miss Lickness, yes.
Ms. Lickness's kindergarten class at Laura Wilder Elementary in 1976.
Yes.
And we were in classes together for years after that too, but there'd be a year or two in there where in elementary school one of us would go someplace else. But I think probably 3 or 4 out of the 6 years or 7 years in elementary school we were in the same together.
There were 4, for the viewers, there were 4 classes of each grade. And so there was 25% chance every year that you'd be in the same class as your friends.
Right.
So, but we never strayed apart. And then I think another big thing that happened was after 6th grade, my family moved closer to your neighborhood. And at that point, we were able to just ride bike over to each other's house. And
yeah, you used to live on, was it 46th? Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you used to ride the bus. I remember that. And I rode the bus with you one day. I remember one day in particular. It was like the only day I rode the bus in elementary school, I think. So
probably we're coming home to play after school or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm guessing your life last month or two has settled down quite a bit, or hasn't it?
It has. It's been almost a month now since the trial ended, and it's calmed down. The holiday, Thanksgiving, and now we're getting close to Christmas, so that's helped a little bit. Getting back to the rest of my work and my family and regular life. So that's been nice. It's calmed down a lot. The number of friendly, supportive, positive, politely worded emails is starting to trickle down to, on average, probably 1 or 2 a day, as opposed to 15 or 20 a day. So it's been nice to, get grounded, get back to, get my mind off of that and focus on the other things that are important in life, So had a lot of time with my kids, got the Christmas tree up, got all the presents wrapped. Looking forward to going on a nice little vacation in a couple days and getting to some warm weather. So it's going to be a good holiday season. The rest of the month is going to be pretty low key for me, which is nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
You deserve it after what you've been through. The last time you were home here in Sioux Falls, we got together at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yep.
And you had asked me that night, you said, have you heard of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial? And I said, no, never heard of it. And you said, you will.
Well, you told me you were getting into watching the true crime documentaries and the coverage of some of the big trials.
Yes.
And I thought, well, this will probably be one of those that'll, rise to that level. And so I thought,
yeah,
if you're really interested in that, then this is going to be right up your alley.
Yeah, I've been kind of in this phase watching court cases, and the first one I watched was the Casey Anthony case in Orlando, Florida, from about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I watched that thing from beginning to end, and then I worked my way through the whole O.J. Simpson trial.
Woo.
Yeah, and then took a month or 2 off, and then you mentioned that you had a trial coming up that was going to be big. So, yeah, did the trial change your life?
No, it didn't. I got exposed to a lot of things I've never been exposed to. Some good, a lot bad. But no, it hasn't changed my life. I continue to do what I like to do. I continue to live my life. I think there are clearly people out there in the world that have gone through what I've gone through, either as a defense attorney or prosecutor or private attorney, whatever. And you can take this and you can turn it into something. You can become something. You can become a talking head on TV. You can become a, celebrity. You can a D- list celebrity, right? You can become a lower level Kato Kalin type or whatever. So people can do that. And maybe I could have tried to do that. I don't know. I don't care. It's not at all what I'm interested in. You and I were just talking a little bit ago, we're both from South Dakota, and South Dakotans, in my opinion, are humble, down to earth, unassuming, unprepossessing, like grounded folks. We don't talk about ourselves. We seek out the limelight. We're not going around doing the self-promotion thing. It's not our forte. And that's who I am. What you see is what you get. I was, after the jury finished up, I was invited on Good Morning America and CNN and NBC and blah, 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 blah. And I said no to all of them, partially because I think professionally, I don't think it's my role as a prosecutor, but other people might have seen that different. But it's also personally me. I'm not terribly comfortable talking about myself. I'm not terribly comfortable in the spotlight. I'll do it when I have to, and I think I can handle it, but it's not something I'm seeking out. It's not something I thrive on. I would prefer to get back to being anonymous and just keep my head down and do my job and raise my family and spend my time with my friends and, live my life. And I don't need any of that other stuff. So.
I've been following a little bit about, what people say. And as I'm watching these videos, there's thousands of comments in these videos of the trial,
Sure.
50% of the people love you and 50% hate you. And is it weird kind of being a polarizing person like that?
It is. I had another jury trial last week. It was a sex assault case, and I lost. This is the first sex assault case I've ever lost, and I don't know why. The jurors don't tell you all their reasoning, but I wonder. I did not ask them. I thought about it. I thought about asking them at the beginning of the trial, like, is there anybody who feels that because of what happened in the Rittenhouse case that somehow it'll change your view of me or the prosecution or hold it against me or blah, blah, blah. And I didn't ask that question because I felt like, ooh, look at me. Look out, don't you know who I am? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to play that. Like, it's not about me, right? But I wonder, like, I go out in public and there are times when I can tell that somebody's looking at me, and, people come up to me from time to time, and it's usually been positive. There's only been one negative. Everyone else has been positive, and maybe the negatives are just too polite to say anything. I was at the gym today. I was working out. I had my gym clothes on. I'm lifting weights. I've got my buddy there. We're hanging out. We're talking. And out of the blue, this young blonde kid, I don't know, he's probably 20 years old, comes up to me. And it was literally like 5 seconds. Like, he comes up and he's like, hey, he's got his phone in his hand. He's like, hey, I'm a big fan. Can I get a selfie with you? And I'm like, I don't want to be rude. So I'm like, look, it's flattering. Thank you. But I'm not comfortable with that. Thanks. And he's like, oh, no problem. It's okay. That's why I asked. And he went off. I'm at the gym. I'm not even wearing a suit. Like, I'm just hanging out with my buddy. I'm talking about stuff. Like, I'm trying to lift weights. Like, really?
Yeah. This was the first time that had happened?
No, it's not. But it's the most recent time. And it's just, I'm not.
Yeah.
So many of this stuff has been negative. So much of it's been negative that I'm kind of gun shy now. I go out and I go to the store. I go,
no pun intended.
Yeah. And I keep my eyes down. I don't make eye contact. I don't know what people are going to do. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't want to deal with it. Like, I'm here to buy some groceries. Leave me alone. Like, I'm a regular guy. I got kids, I got a house, I got a dog. Like, I'm trying to live my life. Like, stop. I don't need
just doing your job, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be a lightning rod. I don't want people to, care about any of that stuff. Like, just let me live my life and move on with yours, right? Like, if you're all upset about the case. Some of these people, it's funny. I get these emails like, you're the worst prosecutor in the world. I can't believe you had this case. And I think, well, if you really thought this guy was innocent, wouldn't you want the worst prosecutor in the world to handle the case? Like, I mean, I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Like, if I'm so awful, wouldn't I be your first choice for being the prosecutor on a guy that you think is innocent? Like, I don't understand this, you know? So it's shown me that people have the endless capacity to be trolls on the internet and to come up with all sorts of new and creative ways to try and get at someone. You know, I was telling you earlier, there's a company in Pennsylvania that you can go to and pay them some money, and they will put some feces in a plastic bag and they will ship it anonymously to anyone in the world that you want them to send it to. So I've had two separate people that have paid probably $40, I don't know, to have this company ship me plastic bags full of what claims to be gorilla feces. I didn't test it. I didn't smell it. I'm not familiar enough with gorilla feces to verify whether or not this is 100% accurate. But today I got an email randomly from eBay that apparently there's some book on ethics that's being shipped to me, and it's coming soon, which I've not ordered any such book. So I can only assume this is someone out there that's spending their money to send me a book, which is like, come on. Whatever, you know, people, it's a different world we live in. The internet enables this. You know, I don't think people did this 30, 40 years ago. I think, you know, you go to somebody's face and you talk to them directly and you politely explain to them that you disagree with them, and that's fine. But this anonymous internet stuff is just, it's pathetic. But it's the world we live in.
So now you're back to normal. Caseload is typical caseload now, or
Yep. I had a full week in court last week, handling all my cases, you know, setting some for trial, resolving some, you know, handling some motion hearings, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that's my regular job. You know, every 3 weeks I'm in court, and every 3 weeks I'm doing trials, and I'm handling my regular cases, which run the gamut from homicides down to traffic tickets. You know, so we do everything. So I'll never forget my first homicide trial. I convicted a guy of murdering his girlfriend, and the jury came back and found him guilty. And literally the moment the jury walked out of the courtroom, they called the next case. And it was a case in which someone had received a ticket from the Department of Natural Resources for fishing from a pier without a license. It was like a $150 ticket. And I had to do a trial. I had to call in the game warden to testify about this. And I thought, you can't go further from one end of the spectrum to the other than a homicide to a fishing from a pier without a license for $150. And it grounded me. It just reminded me that, you know what, you can, you know, think you're hot stuff for doing a homicide trial, and then your next case is a fishing from a pier without a license. Like, it's just, that's what we do, you know? And I don't think people out there really understand what prosecutors do. I mean, I'm one of 10,000 prosecutors in the United States. You know, this is what we all do every single day. You know, and if you back the badge and you support law enforcement and you love your local police officer, well, then you love me too, because they can't do anything without me, and vice versa. You know, I always think about Law and Order. You ever watch Law and Order?
I have.
Yeah. You know,
not regular, but
the original Law and Order. Do you know what their opening, you know, their title, their credit sequence is?
No.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police, who investigate crimes, and the district attorneys, who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories. Bum, bum. And that's what it is. First 30 minutes was the cops, and second 30 minutes was the prosecutors. And that's the way it works. You know, you back the badge, you got to back prosecutors, because cops aren't going to be able to do anything without us.
How many of you are there in Kenosha County?
I think we've got 18 in our office total, assigned to various things. We've got some folks that do juvenile prosecution. So that's, you know, generally kids under 16 who are delinquent or are in the child welfare system because they're in foster care or their parents neglected them or whatever. And then the rest of us handle pretty much the gamut of adult criminal cases, which is, like I said, anything from homicides down to traffic tickets. So.
And was Kyle Rittenhouse just your turn in the rotation, or how did you get it?
So our office is headed up by a man by the name of Mike Gravely, and Mike Gravely is literally the best prosecutor in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm not exaggerating, because he literally just was awarded that title. He won the award for the best prosecutor in the state of Wisconsin at the most recent statewide prosecutor conference. This is the second time he's won that award. He won it back in 2016 also. So he has been recognized by his peers as the best. And he heads up our office. He's been a prosecutor for over 30 years, and he is the best prosecutor I've ever worked with. He has it all. He's sharp, he's cunning, he's personable, he's the best storyteller I've ever met. He's this, I don't know if he's as tall as you are, but he's up there. He's 6'3", 6'4". He lights up the room. He's just got this personality that just fills up a space. He's got that physical persona. He's got that enthusiasm. He's got the sense of humor. He's got the storytelling. A lot of things that I personally don't have. I don't have that charisma. I don't have that force of nature, and I admire him for that. I wish I did. When all this happened with Rittenhouse, it was precipitated by the shooting of a black man by a white police officer. And in Wisconsin, the elected DA in our county has to make the decision as to whether or not that police shooting was justified. So he already had that on his plate, and that was going to be a very difficult and controversial decision because there are a lot of people out there that just view, these incidents as racism, as just another black man shot by a white cop. And then, of course, you've got the other side of the equation, which are people that believe law enforcement is unfairly maligned and they're under siege, and we need to support them because they're out there working hard every day to protect us, and they deserve our support. And there are certainly thousands, if not millions, of really awesome police officers out there. So, it's a situation where there are strong feelings on both sides, and he already had that on his plate. And then 2 days after that, Rittenhouse happens. And he decided that with all that on his plate, that he needed someone else to take the lead on Rittenhouse. And so he asked me to do so. I think there are probably a couple different reasons why he asked me. I think number one, he asked me because I think he understood that was something that I believed in and that I would be feeling strongly about the case. And obviously there are cases that we feel strongly about, and there are cases where we're maybe not as adamant about. And, it's always good to be working in favor of something that you feel strongly about. So that was a plus. And I think the other reason he asked me was because, quite honestly, I'm, other than him, probably the most experienced prosecutor in the office. And I think I'm the kind of person that he can turn to and hand something off like this to, and have faith that, I'm going to take it and handle it. And he can, basically say, okay, that's in good hands and I don't need to worry about it anymore. So he came to me a couple days afterwards. He asked me, he didn't order me. It wasn't, it wasn't a command. It was a choice. And I had the opportunity to say no if I wanted to. And I said yes. And I said yes because of my personal feelings. But I also am at that point in my career after doing this for 25 years where if I'm not going to take this, what am I doing here? If I'm not ready for something like this, then I might as well go, sweep the back room and just, shut it down. Like, I've spent my career working hard, learning, getting a lot of experience handling the tough cases, and I'd like to think that I'm ready for that. So yeah, I didn't fully anticipate at that moment what it all would turn into. Of course, nobody's got a crystal ball, but I knew that there'd be a lot of attention. I knew that it would be a high-profile case. I knew that there'd be a lot of challenges. And like I said, if I'm not ready to handle that, then what am I doing here? If you can't count on me to do that, then I shouldn't be in this office. I shouldn't be part of this team. So
did his case go to court yet?
Who's that?
Your boss, who was busy with another case at the time?
Oh, yeah. So he announced his final decision on that officer-involved shooting back in January. In fact, he made the announcement on January 5th. And the timing of that was quite serendipitous because, as everybody knows, the Capitol incident, whatever you want to call it, where folks broke down the defenses at the United States Capitol and tried to stop the vote and everything, occurred the following day. And he knew when he made his announcement, he ruled that shooting was a justified shooting. And I think the facts are quite clear on that. I think people saw some video up front of what happened and maybe jumped to some conclusions. But when all the facts came out, it was quite clear that this was someone who was armed. This was someone who had disobeyed commands, who had already been tased, who had struggled with officers, who had, gone towards children with a weapon, and there was no other alternatives at that point than to do what that officer did. And I actually personally know the officer who did that shooting, and I was saddened by the fact that this all came down on his head, because quite honestly, he is one of the finest officers I've ever worked with. And his name is Rustin Shesky. I hope he comes back to active, investigative duty soon. I don't know where he's at right now in the process, but he was one of those officers that when I saw his name in the reports on a particular case and I knew he was involved, I closed the file and moved on, because I knew it's good. If he's on it, I don't need to worry. If he's involved, I know it's thorough. I know it's good. I have no questions. We're satisfied. I'm going to move on to the next one, because I'll devote my attention to that one and not worry about that other one anymore, because I know he's on it. So anyway, on January 5th, Mike Gravely announced at a press conference that the shooting was justified, and we were prepared at that particular moment for a huge outcry and reaction, because we knew it was going to be controversial and there were a lot of strong feelings on both sides. Fortunately, it was in the middle of winter, so weather tends to dampen the marching in the streets and all that good stuff. And then within 24 hours, the Capitol thing happened, and it wiped it all off the front pages. And he couldn't have known that things would work out that way. But oh my goodness, you couldn't have picked better timing in hindsight than when that all came down. So after that, obviously he's got all sorts of responsibilities and other things that keep him busy, but he was very helpful. I would constantly bounce ideas off, him and strategies and notions like that. So he's an incredible resource that I've always, treasured the ability to rely on and talk to him about ideas and strategies and techniques and how to resolve cases and things like that. So it's a great resource to have someone with his expertise available. So, since then, he's been incredibly supportive. I just talked to him yesterday about things, and he stopped in and wanting to make sure that I had everything I needed and was well taken care of. So he's been a great boss, and I very much value that kind of support.
Good. So the judge, what were the chances of getting him as a judge? How many different judges are in the rotation?
We have 4 judges that handle criminal cases in Kenosha, and the odds were pretty good that we were going to get him, because a lot of defendants, it's a legal procedure called substitution of judge. So when a criminal defendant is originally charged and their case is sent to any judge, they have a one kick at the cat at the very beginning of the case to what we call substitute judges, which basically means, I don't want that judge, give me a different one. And then it randomly gets assigned to one of the other ones. We know after many years that Judge Bruce Schrader is a judge who a lot of defendants will substitute and go to a different judge. So most of our felony criminal cases start with him, under the assumption that a large percentage of them are going to substitute elsewhere. So, ideally, if we had 4 judges where everything was equal, you'd have 25% on each. But we give a higher percentage to him because we know that a lot of them are going to wind up going someplace else. So the odds of it starting there were pretty strong. And from the defense perspective, I think they had good, sound reasons why they wanted to stay there. And obviously, it worked out in their favor. I have to work with Judge Bruce Schrader. He'll be a judge that I'll appear in front of in the future. So, and I'm always careful about anything I say about colleagues, attorneys, judges, anything like that. What I will say is that off the bench, Judge Bruce Schrader is just about the nicest human being you could possibly meet. He is a prince. He is a kindly gentleman. He is a good person. He is a huge Milwaukee Brewers fan, front row seats. Marquette University, Al McGuire, like the whole 9 yards. He is you can talk to him about the Brewers. For some reason, he's a Chicago Blackhawks fan, which I'm not sure how that jives, but but he's a big sports fan. He's got to be in his mid-70s now. He's the longest serving judge in Wisconsin, currently on the bench in Wisconsin. Might be the longest in history. I don't know. And I'll say this, if I'm that age and I'm half as sharp as he is, I'll be proud, because he is still incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly quick-witted, incredibly sharp. He knows the law. He can expound at, as we saw during the trial, he can expound at length about Roman history and Catholic Church and the founders of our country and William Penn and blah, 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 blah. So he knows 10 times as much as I ever will. So I practiced in front of him regularly for a 2-year period that I was in his court, assigned to his court. Nothing that you saw during that trial was unusual. Now, I've seen that all. I've had him yell at me. I've had him, do all the things, the Jeopardy questions of the jury, the answering his phone in court, the pontifications about this, that, or the other thing. We've all seen it before. And I know a lot of people out there were like, "Ooh, you got yelled at by the judge." Dude, come on. This is the life. Nobody has ever gone through their career without getting yelled at by a judge. No one has ever practiced in that court has gone without getting yelled at by him for one reason or the other. It's par for the course.
And I assume when the trial's over, you guys are talking in the hallway afterwards and it's over, right?
I would do the same with the defense attorneys. Mark Richards, the lead defense attorney. I would happily go grab a beer with him right now. No hard feelings. We will tear each other's guts out in the courtroom. I am diametrically opposed to his client. I wanted his client to go to prison for life. I'm going to fight like tooth and nail in the courtroom. But outside of the courtroom, it's not, for me at least, it's not personal. I don't know what he thinks. I haven't talked to him since then, but it's a job. I take it seriously. I do it well. I fight hard, but it's not personal. With the judge, the defense attorney, it's not. That's not the way I see things. Some other people may be different, and that's okay. That's their choice, but that's not the way I do things.
In your previous trials with this judge, had you ever gotten brazen with him before? I just had to ask.
Absolutely. I'm not at the point in my career where I butter people up, and that's the way to success in some places. You have to kiss the ring. You have to kowtow to their every whim. You have to play that game. And there are people who do that, and they're really good at it. I've never been good at it. I've never been comfortable with it. And at this stage in my life, I just don't care. I just don't feel like it. That's not who I am. And I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. So, I was in his court for 2 years. We butted heads regularly. And there were times in which we were, very upset with one another and critical of one another. And I'd push back at him and he would do his thing to me. And I'd like to think that he understands that I'm doing my job. It's not personal. That outside of that, we can go have a drink. We can talk about the Brewers. We can talk about whatever, and it's all good. But I have a job to do. I take it seriously. I feel personally like I have a certain ethics, a certain integrity, a certain responsibility, and I'm not gonna just take the fall for other people. One of the things that Judge Schrader likes to do is he likes to make the DA in court the poster child for everything that's wrong with our office, or what he likes to call promiscuous plea bargaining, the way that our criminal justice system works. And so he'll place that all at the feet of the prosecutor in court as if it's that person's fault, that the whole system is the way it is. And I'm not gonna play that game. You want to talk to me about what I've done, what I did in that case, the complaint I drafted, the plea bargain I offered, the way I tried that case, fair game. Absolutely. You come at me, I will talk about what I've done. You can criticize me. I'll respond. We can have that discussion all day long. I'm perfectly willing to accept responsibility for anything I've done. But what I'm not going to do is sit here and let you lay at my feet the blame for something somebody else in our office did. You got a problem with them? Go call him. You got a problem with my boss? Here's his number. Go give him a call. I'm not the head of the office, so I'm not responsible for 17 other people. I'm responsible for myself. So that's the way I see things. So I would push back. When Judge Schrader would try and make me the whipping boy for everything that was wrong with whatever, I'd get brazen. Sometimes sometimes you got to do that. It didn't always play well because he doesn't like that. And well, you know what? I get to talk too. It's not. This isn't the Inquisition. It's a courtroom of law, and I have a place, and I have things to say, and I'm allowed to say them. So you got to give me my opportunity. So that's the way I see it.
So one thing I found out through, kind of following the trial and reading things, some of the news agencies would put an article on there. There was one, I think it was Fox, what you need to know about Tom Binger or something like that. And everything that they listed, I think it was like 5 things you need to know about Thomas. Well, everybody calls you Thomas. You're not Tom. Is that your professional name? Thomas?
Professionally, I generally go by that, but okay. I'm Tom.
Yep. So anyway, they listed these 5 things about you.
Okay.
And obviously, the only access they had to your background was your LinkedIn page.
Oh, okay.
Because all they knew was where you went to college, that you'd worked for that firm in Milwaukee for a while.
Sure.
That's all they knew, and some other trials that you had done.
Okay.
And so apparently, your background is pretty private, or hard to find. But can we just go into your background a little bit and
sure.
See what you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know?
So, well, just to kind of, I know it all already, but so, you're born Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Sioux Valley, right? So,
yes. Yep.
So,
which is now what? Sanford?
Sanford Healthcare, yeah.
McKinnon is Avera, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, we grew up there. It's Sioux Valley and McKinnon. It'll always be that. Augustana is Augustana College. We're not a university, but I understand times have changed.
So you and I were born in the same place, 12 days apart from each other.
12 days apart, yeah.
We won't tell the viewers which one of us is older. We'll let them see if they can figure it out. But one of us is 12 days older. And you were born to older parents, right?
I was.
Your dad was a World War II vet.
He was.
And was it in his mid-40s when you were born?
He was 46 when I was born. My mom was 42.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they're no longer with us.
No, that was an era in which people didn't. I mean, women didn't. Childbirth at 42 was, that was pushing the envelope in terms of our system back then. It's still high risk, but back then it was even more so.
And your siblings are all quite a bit older than you. I bet people don't know that either.
They're all retired now.
They're all retired. They're all at least 15 years older than you, I think, right?
I think I'm the only one now. All the spouses and everybody, they're all officially retired, like now, seriously. And they're talking about going on some trip next year. And I'm like, why can't I come along? And they're like, well, you're not retired. You got to work. We're retired. We can go do what we want.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. That's a good point.
So interesting little story here. So my dad and one of your brothers, won't say names, they're involved in an organization together. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And when my dad, probably a week into the trial, my dad ran into your brother and said, hey, have you been watching Tom on TV? He didn't know you were on TV. He said, what? What are you talking about? Oh, Tom's in a big case and it's all over the internet. And so he said, oh, I'll have to go check that out.
That's kind of what I was getting back to earlier. It's not about me. I don't, I'm not like out there like, oh, you need to watch me.
Yeah.
It wasn't my thing.
Do you wish your parents could have seen the trial? They missed it by just a couple of years, but You wish they could have?
I don't think there's many people out there that don't want to hear from their parents that we're proud of you, right? And
Yeah.
I tell my kids that because that's something that I love to hear from my parents. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear those words from my parents a lot, and I don't think it's because they weren't. I think it's because that's just a different generation. They didn't feel the need to say that a lot. I
Mhm.
think they were. I would have. I particularly would have liked my dad to. He died a couple of years ago, and I wish he was around to see that. I'm not sure politically that he would have
Oh,
agreed with.
really?
One of the things I found out later in life is they were avid Fox News, watchers and writing letters to, politicians that were on the other end of the spectrum from me personally.
Mhm.
But no, I wish he could have seen it. My mom too. I think it would have been, my parents were different than I was in this respect. And I find this interesting about Sioux Falls. I find it interesting about Milwaukee. Did you know that the old Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, William Rehnquist, who was the Chief Justice in the
I remember him.
most of the 80s and late 80s and into the almost throughout the 90s. I think he finally stepped down in 2005 or something like that. Anyway, he went to high school in a suburb of Milwaukee.
No.
Now, he didn't stay there for college. He didn't stay there for law school. He's probably never been back, but Milwaukee still claims him. And I find that funny. It's like, I don't think he probably thinks of himself as a Milwaukee kid, but whatever. Anyway, my point is my parents, my mom in particular, was the kind of person who any sort of tangential, like third degree of separation connection to a celebrity was like, did you know that your cousin lived next door to the secretary to some b-list celebrity? And it's like, mom, I don't think anybody really cares, but okay. So I think she would have gotten a kick out of me being on TV, and I'm sure she would have bragged endlessly to everybody she met. And if
Yeah.
that made her happy, that would have made me happy. But again, like I said, that's not really what I'm all about. I will say this. I was back in South Dakota with you this summer, and I'd come back the summer of 2020 during COVID, and you and I went out then too.
Yeah.
We went out to that place out on 26th and whatever, way out there. I also had an opportunity around that time to go grab lunch with one of my college professors who was my poli-sci professor. And I'm not going to name any names right now because I don't feel like that's something I want to do. But we talked about, some cases and criminal justice and all that stuff. And he was very, avid about that. He obviously knew chapter and verse about it from his years as a professor. And he passed away a month or two before the trial. And
Oh,
I sure wish that he could have seen me. I sure wish I could have made him proud. I sure wish I could have talked to him.
yeah.
He was one of the 2 or 3 most influential teachers I've ever had in my life, and I was blown away that he passed away because he was still very young, comparatively young. And last time I saw him in summer 2020, he seemed in great health. I thought for sure I didn't go to grab lunch with him this summer because I thought, well, you know what, I just saw him last summer. I'll wait a year or two and catch up with him, and it's too late.
I'm sure that he would love to have seen one of his pupils, on the grand stage. He would have loved it.
Yeah, it makes me sad. I would have enjoyed talking with him and getting his insight.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
but yeah. So you asked about my background. I don't know if that's all that interesting to talk about, but yeah. I mean, you and I grew up together, and we
Yep.
were super close until college, and then you went out to Rapid, and I stayed in town, and we were still in touch, but we didn't see each other as often. And then you got married, and I got
Mhm.
married a few years later, and I
Yeah.
think there was a little bit of a gap in there where we weren't in touch as much. But I feel like we've kind of gotten back, in the last few years now with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
internet, Facebook or whatever. So it's made it a little easier.
Yeah. It for sure has. Yeah. What made you go into law?
I vividly remember a conversation I had when I was in ninth grade. I was sitting with my mom. We were watching the 1955, is it Henry Fonda movie? Mr. Rogers. It's a movie about a naval ship, and I get it confused with the Kane Mutiny because that was around the same time period. But anyway, the point is we were watching this movie, my mom and I have an older brother that as you know, who was a very successful debater in high school and college, and then he went to law school and has had a wonderful law career. And I remember asking my mom specifically about him. What did he do? And my mom was like, well, he was a debater in high school and college, and then he went to law school. And I was like, okay, I'm doing that. I made up my mind. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. So in high school, as you know, I was, I lived and breathed debate. School, and I tried it a little bit in college, but it was too hard to balance it with, the rest of my life, and then law school, and so I always wanted to do the litigation, the courtroom work. I always wanted to do trials. I've had a lot of my legal career has been civil litigation, civil practice, private practice, where you don't get a chance to do a lot of trials, and I hated it. And now I'm back doing what I'm doing, and I get to do trials all the time, court all the time, and I love it. And this is where I want to be, and this is where I see myself for the rest of my career. So
yeah, and I'm trying to remember, were you state debate champion in high school, or close top 3, top 5?
We were runners-up in my junior year.
And
then in my senior year, we didn't win the state championship, but we finished 4th in the nation at the national.
Yeah, 4th in the nation.
And I was state champion in what they call extemporaneous speaking, which is getting up and giving a speech about. They had foreign and domestic, so I was a foreign extemp guy. So you'd get up and give a speech about some sort of foreign topic, which back in that era would have been, perestroika and glasnost in the Soviet Union. It would be, Tiananmen in China. It would be, all sorts of other things around the world. But
So did did your brother get 4th in the nation when he was in debate?
He did not. He did not. Little sibling rivalries. The younger sibling, you always want to kind of outshine. Yeah. And my high school career was more successful than my brother's. He went in and did a lot in college, which I never did. So he was clearly, had greater success in college than I did. But in high school, I managed to eclipse his very successful career. But lots changed. That was many years in between then, and now so much has changed. I don't think you and I have talked about this, but I went and had this last summer. I had a lunch with my old debate coach, who and they don't do debate anymore like we used to do. We used to have a policy topic where it would be like, one of the topics, it was, political stability in Latin America, for example. And so you talk about debt in Brazil, or you talk about, Costa Rica, or you talk about the, Sandinistas and the Contras in Nicaragua or whatever. And now it's public forum debate, which I don't even really know what that is, but it sounds like it's much more about political philosophy and ideas than about facts and, citing a news article and post-dating someone else's article, or, coming up with those sorts of things. So it's changed a lot. And I don't even know what it's like anymore. It's been a long time. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. The year I was in debate, our 10th grade year, I think it was agriculture.
Yep.
And the case I always tried to pitch was, banning tobacco use in the United States.
Ooh. Okay.
That's why I wasn't very successful in debate, because that was a tough one to sell any judge on. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got North Carolina and Virginia out there that are going to be decimated if we get rid of that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Do they still have squirrel killers?
I don't know. I think with public forum debate, I don't think that's nearly the critical issue. I mean, I can see why the public policy debate, or whatever they called it, was headed for its own extinction, because you had this mad rush to, post dating, my article's a week after yours, so mine's true and yours is false. Oh, come on. Like, like the viability of tobacco crops in North Carolina changed since last Monday. Like, come on, but that was the thing. And then it was all speed, it was 300 words a minute. I can out-talk you and all this stuff. And So I think there were a lot of inherent difficulties with that type of debate that probably caused them to make some changes, but I don't know when or how that happened, but it's clearly different than it was. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
scroll killers. I remember, you'd come up with find some new article from some obscure newspaper or journal, and then you'd have the better information, and the judges would give you a win because your data was 3 weeks newer
Yeah.
than the opponent's data, and it's like the world doesn't change overnight like that. But yeah.
Another thing we did a lot as kids is sports. Seemed like we played every sport, and you and I ended up always being the two that organized all the games.
I love that. We had a good crew. We had so many people that we grew up with in the neighborhood, and we'd have this list of folks we'd call, and
Yep. You'd call half, I'd call half.
Yep. And
then we'd call each other back and tell you how many we got.
And we didn't need much, right? 3-on-3, 4-on-4 for basketball or Nerf football or whatever. We had the NFL, the Nerf Football League, remember? And
yeah,
it was awesome. Remember when we used to play on the ice at that ice skating rink down by my house?
Yes.
We used to play Nerf football on the ice.
Yes.
I can remember laying out for passes and hitting my hip on the ice. And I'd be paralyzed now if I tried that at my age, right? But back then you were rubber, like you could do all that all day long. But
oh yeah, you didn't worry about it at all.
We were crazy. That stuff was crazy.
That big field by your house there, that park.
Yeah.
You remember there was one summer where they had dug a hole out in the middle of the field. It was about a square foot, but about 5 feet deep.
Yeah.
Like they're going to put a post there or something.
Right.
And before the game, we'd all, okay, everybody, remember there's a hole there. Don't step in it.
You fall on that and you're going to break your leg.
But we'd be running pass routes right by it, but we never went in it.
Oh my goodness. The stuff we did, it's a different era now. I mean, helicopter parents, we don't let our kids out of our sight. But back then, I mean, you and I, we'd be gone from sun up to sundown.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea whose house we were at or where we were, what we were doing. None whatsoever.
My first solo drive after getting my driver's license, my first solo drive was down to your house.
Okay.
And I picked you up and we went and played some Two Tigers at the arcade. Remember Two Tigers?
Yeah, with the two planes side by side.
And we do little circles like this and just bomb, 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 bomb.
Yep. I get it confused with it began with an R, like Raken or Redden or something like that. It was more of a space type one. But you're right. This was the one where you were over a ship and you had to drop the bombs to sink the ship.
World War II.
3 hits or 4 hits in the same spot to pop the water, and then you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Yep, that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Would we go down to Empire for that?
No, we would go to was it called Gigglebees at the time?
Yeah, up on 14th there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's where we played that. I think it was Granny's, and then it was Gigglebees, and then it was Piccadilly.
Do you know, apparently somewhere in the northern suburbs of Chicago, I wish you'd come out and we could hit this sometime because I would love it. There's apparently a place where you pay something like $20. I don't know what it is, something like that. And you get unlimited plays on a football field size arcade floor. They literally have every console video game from 1980 on, and it's all the old ones that we used to play, and it's unlimited. So you like $20, you can come and go as you please for a day. And I talked to one of my friends about it, and he's like, you gotta go. I wonder if they'd have Two Tigers and some of those other games.
I bet they would. Is that
awesome.
Is that a chain or is that just a local place?
I think it's just a single place who, they acquired all those. I mean, those consoles aren't cheap, right? And they heat up, and the motherboards are faulty, so you got to keep them running and stuff. So I can't even imagine. How do you find somebody to fix an old, Capcom motherboard from 1986, right? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Whatever those companies were that used to make all those things.
Yeah, and a lot of them. Well, I can't remember what they were now, but there was a lot of them.
Yeah,
it seemed like a lot of them were Japanese, right? A lot of them.
That was the I mean, they were the biggest innovators, and they came up with the best stuff. And I mean, we're not just talking Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. I mean, it's all the deep ones, that you can't. I mean, Pole Position and Joust and Burger Time and all these classics.
Yeah, Donkey Kong.
Atari emulators and stuff, but it's not the same thing as playing on the actual console.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those were good times.
Yep, they sure were. Time sure flies. So people that watch my channel are kind of used to talking sports and cards and stuff like that. You ready to turn the page?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
All right. So what's your favorite sport these days?
I know you got into Formula One at one point.
Yep.
And I've gotten into Formula One, and I just watched Abu Dhabi on Sunday.
That was a great finish.
It was.
They changed the rules. They changed the rules.
They totally rigged it, and I'm not
on the fly. They changed the rules.
And that's kind of one of the weird things about Formula One is I just don't, and it's true for Indy and NASCAR too. It's like I don't feel like there's a consistent set of rules and guidance. It's kind of whimsy, and I'm not happy about that. I don't feel like that with basketball or baseball or football or hockey. Like it's very much. I look, I'm a Max guy. I wanted him to win, but Lewis was the better driver for 57 out of 58 laps.
Yeah.
And then they let 5-lap cars pass, which I don't understand why that was allowed to happen. And suddenly they're right by one another with, Max has got tires that are 30 laps fresher. Like,
yeah, he got caught on tire strategy there, but even
I love the notion of coming down to one lap. That's awesome. But now
I think that's why they did it.
Yeah.
They figure that makes the most exciting race.
It was.
But even Max said when he was passing, he said, "This isn't right." Did you hear that?
I did not. No, really? He said that?
They played his cockpit. Look for it on the internet. He said, "This isn't right."
If the reverse were true, Red Bull would be screaming bloody murder.
Yeah.
I mean, Lewis was the best by far, the best car on the track for 57 laps. It was his race. He should have won it. And I like new blood. I'm it's 7 straight or whatever, 6 straight. Like it's been.
Yeah.
He's the Tom Brady, right? It's like, come on, can we get someone new here? We're getting a little old. I mean, he's obviously the greatest driver of all time. He's had his due, but maybe it's time for something new. But he got cheated. In my opinion.
So racing is your favorite sport?
Well, I mean, I really have enjoyed that season. I've really gotten into it. This Netflix series, Drive to Survive, which I've told you about before, this documentary really kind of got me into it. And I got to know the drivers and their personalities and the team principles and kind of the makeup of everything. So college basketball, March Madness, I think is the finest sporting event of the year, every year. I love it. It's a holiday. If I can take those days off, I'm a huge fantasy baseball guy, so I love baseball. I always have. I don't necessarily want to sit and watch every single game, but I love the fantasy aspect of it. I'm hardcore about that. I'll always have a soft spot for the NFL, but it's kind of jumped the shark for me. I learned many years ago, somebody posted a statistic, which is true, and it kind of changed the way I view football. There's only actually 11 minutes of action.
Yeah.
In the average NFL game, and the TV timeouts and the, field goal or the touchdown timeout, field goal timeout, or, commercials, touchdown commercials, field goal commercials, kickoff commercials. It's like, so I have the ability now with YouTube TV to DVR unlimited NFL games, and it's changed the way I view things. Like I'll wait, I'll join the game at halftime, and I'll just fast forward through all the commercials. I watch the 6 or 7 minutes of actual play. I can hit the remote to skip the 30 seconds of play clock between the last play and when they actually come to the line and hike it. So I can't abide by the model. I can't abide by a sport where there's so much dead time, where there's just so much fluff, and now we got 17 games. Like, so you and I grew up. We were hardcore Steelers fans. We watched everything. We had the cards. We lived and died by it, and I still treasure those memories. But it's not the same anymore.
No, if you're willing to wait until later Sunday evening, online you can find condensed games.
Yeah,
they're like 20, 25 minutes long.
Yeah,
and you can see the whole game, every play.
Yep. And as long
That's,
as you can keep, away from the Twitter or whatever and see the
yeah,
scores, or your
yeah.
best friend is like, did you see the Packers crushed them or whatever? We're big Packers fans out here, so that's the big
So
team.
so you've given up on the Steelers then? You're Packers number one?
I have not in the 2011 Super Bowl or 2012 Super Bowl.
Yeah, they played each other.
I told myself going into that game I didn't care. I was happy that both teams, blah blah blah. But as the game went the Packers' way, I was grumpy. I was like, I want the Steelers to win.
Yeah.
So no, they're my first love. But generally speaking, they're not head-to-head rivals, so I can cheer for both. But
Yeah.
my Steelers are still my first love.
Good.
Yeah.
How about baseball?
Are you still Steelers above everybody else?
I haven't changed. Yeah. Steelers, Red Sox, Lakers, Minnesota North Stars.
The Dallas Stars or the Minnesota Stars? You're not a Wild fan then, are you?
No. I stuck with the Stars.
So how do you feel about the Lakers with LeBron and AD now? Is it still the same for you?
The style is different. I still like watching basketball. I like it that the Lakers have a couple of really good stars on their team. But it's different. It's just a different game.
So if
it's like, okay, now it's my turn to isolate. Next time it'll be your turn to isolate.
Well, in the threes now, it's crazy. It's all about space in the threes. The corner three, and I get it. I mean, it's sound, rational philosophy, but it's not entertaining. So if you had to name your five, like your all-time Mount Rushmore top 5 NBA players of all time, who would you put on that list?
What's the criteria? Best individual player or best team player, or
it's Eric's criteria.
Okay. Well, Mount Rushmore has 4 faces on it.
We'll go for 5 because it's a starting 5. So you don't position. You don't have to do point and shooting and all that stuff. Just your 5 number, 1 through 5, greatest of all time.
Will Chamberlain.
Okay.
I think he's the greatest player that's ever lived.
Okay.
If I could have, I'd take Bill Russell if he would be willing to play power forward for me. He would be more than happy to give Wilt all the glory and credit and stats as long as we win.
Yep.
So Wilt, Bill, Michael Jordan, LeBron, Kobe.
Okay.
Those are the 5 I'd take. How about you?
No Kareem or Magic, huh?
Not Magic. Kareem would be close, but I think Wilt was better.
Okay.
In his prime.
Sure.
Yeah, how about you?
I think, as a singular force, we've never seen anything like Wilt, and we never will. I mean, 100 points and 50, averaging 50 for a season and 62, 63, and still, 25 rebounds a game or something. And he could do it today. I mean, that he was as athletic and strong and as talented as anybody. Obviously, the selfishness and all that stuff, sets him apart from maybe a Bill Russell, but I would have to say MJ is the number 1 player in my mind, just because of everything. The offense, the defense, the leadership, the competitiveness, the evolution of his game. I think I'd put Kareem number 2. And I put it on the not just the NBA, which stacks right up there with everybody we mentioned, but the whole body. I mean, you look at Power Memorial in New York. What was it, 88?
Well, yeah,
something like that. And then the UCLA, where he couldn't play for the varsity team as a freshman at UCLA. Their team was the defending national champions, and they were the second best team on their own campus because Kareem's freshman team was even better.
And they actually played the game and they beat them.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're the best team in the country and the second best on the UCLA campus, right? So you have that 7-year, build up before the pros, and then of course, the titles and the 6 MVPs and the scoring and all that stuff. You and I grew up the '80s Showtime Lakers, the Celtics, the 76ers. Moses Malone in '83. I was a 76ers fan back then, just because everybody was either a Celtics or a Lakers fan, so I kind of had to find a niche. But
yeah, I remember that.
Kareem's always been my favorite, and I think not only as a player but as a human being, as a statesman, as a I mean, a jazz aficionado, a martial arts guy, civil rights leader. There's just so much. Well, just so much depth to him as a human being that I really respect. He's clearly a thoughtful, very brilliant, articulate human being that has lived through a lot. And so I respect that. But my question was really asking you. I wanted to hear where you put LeBron, and I respect that you put him 4, or in the top 5. I don't know if that was 1 through 4 in your order, but I personally believe that we as fans are not fully appreciating what we have seen from LeBron James for 19 years now. And it's one of those things where maybe a little bit like Mike Trout, where we're going to look back on it and be like, hey, kids, I saw him. Like, that was the Willie Mays, the Mickey Mantle, the, Joe DiMaggio, or, the, Jim Brown, or the O.J. Simpson, or the Joe Montana, or whatever you want to call it, of my sport. Like, to be still in the short list of top NBA players at whatever, 36, 37, whatever he is now, after 19 years, being the target of every player, had been to the finals X amount of times, is something that I don't think we've really seen. No. The pressure is way different now than it was. 11 out of 13 years for Bill Russell's obviously untouchable, but it was a different era. They had 12, 14 teams back, right? I mean, it wasn't the same thing. And then just the variety of skills, the point guarding, the defense, the rebounding, the shooting, the just floor awareness, the alpha, everything about it is just really amazing to me. So I would definitely put him in my top 5.
So who are they again now? Could you recap? Did you say 5?
I didn't say 5. I said MJ, Kareem, and LeBron. Those would be right up there. It's so hard to compare eras. Russell and Chamberlain were a different era. Elgin Baylor, Jerry West. It's hard to say. You can't ignore 11 out of 13 with Russell. You can't ignore the leadership. Obviously, he's another one of those guys who, not just on the court but off the court, as an elder statesman, as a civil rights leader, as just a high character individual, is incredibly impressive. So I probably have to put him in the top 5. And then for my 5th spot, I might put Magic. If nothing else, for balancing out this team, because I got a bunch of tall guys and a shooting guard, but 5 titles, in a hyper competitive era with the Pistons and the Celtics and the 76ers and the Rockets. That's no we don't have the nowadays. It's the team of the year, right? It's the Heat, it's the Maverick, it's the Raptors, it's the Bucks, it's the Wizards, or whatever. Like, it changes every year. But you had dynasties in the 80s. You had teams that were consistently up there. I mean, the Bucks had great teams in the 80s, right?
They did.
The Mavericks, the Nuggets had good teams in the 80s. The Spurs had good teams in the 80s. There were some teams that consistently were 50-win playoff teams every year, and yet it was Magic and Bird, or so
Magic and Bird, or Magic and Julius. I think the Lakers made 8 finals in the 80s. Out of 10, and they always played one of those 2 until the end when they played the Pistons.
And the West maybe wasn't quite as strong as the East back then, with the Sixers and the Bucks and the Celtics and others, but still, he was the guy. He was the alpha on that team. He was the leader. He was the distributor. He was so. And he didn't have that long of a career. I mean, when you think about it, it was 12, 13 years, which is relatively short for all-time greats. But I'd put him right up there. Kobe, I don't think Kobe was the alpha on those Shaq teams. Shaq was the alpha. I think on his last couple titles, I think Kobe was the alpha. But I don't know; those weren't as good of teams. And I think he was underrated defensively. I think he was a much better defender than he got credit for.
Mm-hmm.
He was clearly one of the greatest pure scorers we've ever seen. I put him on a level with KD and Pistol Pete and Dantley and Gervin and people like that just could score at will. But the career shooting percentage was what, 42, 43%. I mean, it was
Probably.
It was a high
He
ball.
took a lot of shots.
I mean, with those teams, he was always going to get that shot, right? So,
Yep.
when you got four guys standing around going, Kobe, we're open, but you're going to take the shot anyway.
Yeah.
I have trouble respecting that. I guess that's just not the way I see basketball. But longevity, obviously, and that helicopter crash. I mean, what?
Yeah.
I still remember hearing that news. I was at a birthday party for some kid we knew or whatever. I just remember like, what? What? Kobe?
Yeah.
How old is he? Like 39? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
One of those moments you never forget.
I was in Minneapolis, where one of my kids was going to college at the time, and I was in a long line at a car wash. And I got a text from Near Mint Musings, who is another YouTube channel guy and friend of mine. And he said, "Oh, it's just killing me to hear the news about Kobe." I didn't know anything about Kobe. I'm sitting in the line I'm eight deep in a car wash line here. Yeah. So I got, looked it up, and they said that this helicopter had crashed. And at that point, they were saying they believed it was Kobe. They weren't confirming it was Kobe. And so I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at some party, and I was chatting up some other guy that I really didn't know. He was another sports fan. We were just kind of, shooting the breeze. And then we both got the alert on the phone, right? It's like, what? How's that even what?
Yeah.
It should be around another 50 years,
Yeah. Next month, 2 months from now, it'll be 2 years already.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I believe, if I recall, LeBron turns 37 next week.
Does he
or in
really?
a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think he turns 37 later this month.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
So you are still a Sixers fan, or have you gone to the Bucks now that you're local there?
No, I'm definitely a Bucks fan now. I got to see a game a few weeks ago at the Fiserv Forum, which is a beautiful arena. The old Bradley Center was kind of boring and staid, and then they tore it down and replaced it. And we've got a state-of-the-art facility. And the NBA nowadays is all about the corporate, the box suites.
Yeah.
And, regular folks can't sit in the lower deck anymore. Like, we're up in the nosebleeds, which are still good seats, and it's still fun. But you're going to be in for $100+ for your seats and your concessions and all that. So I got to see him play a couple weeks ago. I think they were playing I don't remember who it was, but they crushed him pretty easily. But Giannis is just a delight. Wisconsin has 3 major sports, and we have stars in each of those sports, MVPs in each of those sports that I consider to be wholesome, down to earth, relatively down to earth folks. Aaron Rodgers has kind of burned a little capital lately, but I won't go into that. But Christian Yelich, hardworking, straight shooting, down to earth, not a fancy, style guy, like just a grinder. I'm here to do my job, and I'm all about the celebrity stuff. And Giannis is the same way, like just hardworking, humble, honest, hasn't forgotten his roots, hasn't forgotten his family, hasn't forgotten where he came from, hasn't let all the money and all the accolades go into his head. One of the rare players. How many players in NBA player history have won an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year? It's Elijah Wan, MJ, and I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 others. I mean, it's pretty uncommon. So it's a fun team to watch. The games are great. It's there's a whole district, they call it the Deer District in downtown Milwaukee, where they've built up an area with some bars and outdoor space, and they've really transformed it, and they've ridden this success. I watched the finals. I admit I was crying. I was so happy for him. He just
nice.
You could tell it hit him personally. Like, this wasn't just another day at the office. Like, it was just like, oh my goodness, we've won. Like, it meant so much to him. You could just tell. It wasn't Tom Brady cashing in a seventh Lombardi trophy. It wasn't just the Yankees spending $300 million to buy a championship. Like, this was a genuine,
Mm-hmm.
working hard, 14th pick, from Greece, working his way up, putting in the effort every day. It's not a conglomeration of three superstars like the Nets or the Lakers or the, whatever other teams have done that. Like, it's him and really a bunch of role players, good coaches, hardworking, so it's been fun to watch them, and they've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start this year, but they're not healthy, and they'll be there in the end, and we'll see how it plays out.
So Kenosha, it's between Chicago and Milwaukee along the coast, right, of the lake.
Yeah.
Is it actually closer to Chicago?
No, it's right on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin, but it's 25, 30 miles south of Milwaukee and probably 50, 55 miles north of Chicago. So
okay.
It's closer to Milwaukee, but you still get, the northern suburbs of Chicago run all the way up to the state line. So you've got, Great America Amusement Park, and you've got a lot of stuff right across the border. And so, you can go as far into Chicago as you want. Go all the way downtown to Sears Tower and all that stuff if you want. So it's accessible.
So we haven't covered baseball yet. You grew up a Yankees fan? Am I remembering that right?
I did, Mr.
And are you still?
I am. Yeah, they're still my favorite team. I like the Brewers. I got to my first playoff game ever this year. I got to see their first playoff game against the Braves at what I still call Miller Park, even though they've changed the name now, but it's the stadium here in Milwaukee. And it was my first live playoff game of any sport. And it was awesome. We won, and it was a good game. And they've been in the playoffs quite a bit lately, and have had a lot of success. Corbin Burns won the Cy Young this year. Yelich is an MVP, so it's been fun to watch them. The Yankees have not had quite the same level of success. Are you still a Red Sox fan, even after Mookie and all the changes they made?
Yeah, I wish they wouldn't have let Mookie go, but always will be a fan, no matter whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, Mookie might be my favorite MLB player. I love him. I had him on my fantasy team even when he was in the minors. I followed him all the way up. Just a genuinely awesome person. He was the player of the year in high school basketball in, I think, Nashville, when he was in high school as a basketball player. And then, of course, he's obviously a great baseball player. He's also a 300 bowler.
Remember that? Yes.
He bowled a perfect game. So,
and he bowled in a couple professional tournaments.
Oh yeah, he's legit. And just seems like a awesome, charismatic, just really great guy. I mean, and obviously just otherworldly talented.
Yeah,
I love him. I think he's awesome.
The Dodgers are my favorite National League team. So, if you had to go to somebody, I guess the Dodgers would be my preference. So you're still a Yankees fan?
Yeah, I'll always be a Yankees fan. It's the history. Yeah. It's Ruth, it's Gehrig, it's DiMaggio, Mantle, Reggie, all that stuff. Lou Gehrig would always be my number one all-time favorite baseball player.
You mentioned us growing up in South Dakota. There's no professional sports teams in South Dakota. Yeah. So I end up with the Steelers, the Lakers, and the Red Sox, and you end up with the 76ers, the Yankees, and the Steelers, right? You just a little of everything out here. Although technically we're close to Minnesota, so we got a lot of Vikings and Twins.
The Vikings were stellar when we were growing up. I mean, the 70s, they went to 3 Super Bowls. They were Tarkin and Chuck Foreman, Sammy White, all that stuff. Ahmad Rashad, Carl Eller, Alan Page.
You still have that Fran Tarkington card where he's got the towel over his head sitting on the bench? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure I do. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure I do. I've never gotten rid of any of my cards. They're all sitting in a case down in the basement somewhere.
You used it as a bookmark in school.
That gets right into the card collecting thing, because I know you're still avid and you've got your binders behind you, and that's awesome. And I would love.
And this cabinet is full.
So
card?
the next time that I come back, can I come over and will you
Yeah.
can we look through some of this stuff? Because you've got 1,000 times what I've got. I stopped, back whenever in the 80s or whatever. And it's a time capsule. Like I've got it all. It's not going anywhere. I've kept, good care of it. It's locked away and I'll keep it forever and, give it to my kids someday. But I haven't kept up with all the new, bells and whistles. I think the newest card, the newest card I have in my possession is this. It's a Randy Moss from what is this? This is probably his rookie year. Yeah, this is his rookie card from I guess '98. Right, it's a draft pick card. I don't know if you can see that very well or not.
Yeah.
My mom actually bought this in whatever '98, probably at Hy-Vee. And then put it in a little sleeve for me. And it was like, hey, I got this for you in case you're interested. And so, of course, that's 23 years ago, right? But this is probably the newest thing I own, right? So
she got it at Hy-Vee?
I don't know. I don't know, right? But it's probably worth something.
I bet it is.
I'm going to hold on to it.
Yeah. You used to have a tall Kareem Abdul-Jabbar card.
I know. And
you know what I'm talking about?
Find it, and I can't find it. I know
it's taller than the normal card.
So I have a Stargell card.
I remember that one.
Yep. And and it was a Lou Alcindor.
Oh yeah.
And it was this size, and I still have the Stargell. And I know you're right. I know I've got that card somewhere. I can't find it. The only one I could find was I've got this one.
Oh yeah, the third year card.
Yep. So that's after 70-71 season. So I still have that.
That's good. That card's got some value too.
And you and I were different. For anybody who's watching this is probably not our age. We would open a pack of cards. We would take the gum. We would chew the gum because gum was good, and then we would thumb through the cards. Yeah. And we would trade them and we would hold on to them. We didn't have the sleeves. We didn't hold on to them thinking they were worth. You didn't have the whatever these mint grading organizations were. Like it was for fun. It was to trade. And I'll never forget this. You would remember this because you've got a better memory than I do. Dwayne Board. I will go to my grave hating Dwayne Board's guts, not because he did anything, but I had the entire set of the NFL cards from some year. I'm guessing 81 or 82 or something like that, except for Dwayne Board, who I think was a defensive lineman for the 49ers. He might have been an offensive lineman. I don't remember. He was a 49ers player. And I could never get his card. And I think, if I recall correctly, and you might correct me on this, I don't know, but I thought you had him and you wouldn't give them to me because you knew that would complete my set, or you wanted to trade. Like I had to give you something awesome to get him from you, but it was one of these things where it's like, oh, I've got him, but you can't have him unless you give me, whatever. And I didn't want to do it because it's Dwayne Board, but I had to complete the set, right? So I'll never forget 30 years, 40 years later now, like Dwayne Board, like that guy, that was the guy. That
you never got it? You never got the card?
I might have. I don't remember. But it was one of those things. But that's the example of that's what it was for us. Like you had the checklist and you actually put a ballpoint and check mark on 1 through 792 to get your, full set. And you didn't buy the box with all the cards. I mean, you could, I suppose, but we didn't do it that way. We got packs and you'd get 6 or 7 of the same, generic running back while you're waiting to get the guy you really wanted.
Yep. Yep. Eventually you get to the point where you'd open up a pack and you didn't need any of them.
Yeah. And then you toss them in the box with the rest of your commons and,
Yeah. Did you ever do business with the, what were they called? Sports Cards of Ohio out of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio? Our mutual friend Chad clued us into them and you could order by mail.
Yep. And I think I did order a couple things, not much, but I think I did order a couple of hard to find things that I really wanted from them. Yeah. Way back when, Yeah.
I know you're a Lynn Swan fan, and that's where I got my Lynn Swan rookie was through Sports Cards of Ohio. I don't even know if they're still in business. Probably not. but there was no internet.
Yeah.
There was no Beckett magazine yet.
You'd have to write them a letter, like postmark it, like send it to them.
Yes, and I'd actually send change in an envelope for the card. But you remember these?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is that the Beckett guide?
This is the annual Beckett guide. See down in the lower corner, Dr. James Beckett.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Before the monthly, this is what we had.
The Bible every year. Absolutely.
And I got these in that book club. You remember those newsprint book club things we'd get in school, and you could order books out of it, and a month later they'd show up?
Yeah, the Scholastic book thing, yeah.
Yeah, Scholastic book. That's where I got that. And I got it in the book club.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so what do you think a 1952 Mickey Mantle was worth in 1983? This is 83, sorry.
Probably $2,000.
This lists every single card. 1,550. Not bad.
Now it's
and then
a million.
By 1987, let's see what happened.
Up to 50,000 or something.
2,900.
Okay, so it doubled in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a good ROI.
And that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
What other cards you got?
Well, you know, my two crown jewels of my collection are my my Peyton rookies.
Yes. There was I don't know if you remember, but I bought a shoebox of cards from you one time.
Okay.
And you would not include I wanted one of those, and you would not include it.
And I'll bet that was 40 years ago, and you know, here they still are. So
yeah.
This one is, you know, you can see on the forehead, there's it's not quite as faded as this one is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure that means something. You know, the corners are good, but they're not, you know, they're not perfect. You know, I've handled this card, right? Like, this isn't something that I just locked away. So I don't know what they're worth. I've never had them graded, but those are my prized possessions, and you know, I'll keep them forever.
It's a highly counterfeited card, so you probably, if you were to put it on eBay, you'd probably get some skepticism about it, since it's not graded.
How do you prove, like, so I'd have to send it to a grading folks?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a little bit of debate in the industry, right? Us old timers, we know how to tell real cards.
Well, I know it's a real card because I bought it in 1975. So don't tell me this is a counterfeit. I've had it for most of my life. Like, see, to me, I get it. You can counterfeit stuff. There's technology. People are really avid about that. But like, this has been part of my life for my entire life. So
this is a loop.
A what?
A loop.
Okay.
It has 60x magnification.
Okay.
And you can look through this at a card, and you can see down to the dot pattern on the card. And that's how you can tell the era that a card was actually printed. So a fake that was printed 5 years ago of that card will have a different print pattern than the original.
Okay. So, wow.
So a lot of us feel like, hey, we know just as much as the person who's worked at the grading service for 3 months now.
Right.
And it's grading these cards.
Well, and it burns. I know this is the way the system works, and I get it. But so for all of the folks that might be watching this that watch Eric regularly, like, Eric is light years beyond me on all this stuff, because he's kept with it, and he's made it part of his life, and he's devoted a lot of time and energy to it. And I haven't. I wish I would have, because it's cool. But I'm old school. Like, I was just saying, you know, you open a pack, you thumb through them, you trade them with your friends. So I have never got on board the grading train. I've never sent anything to any of those folks. To me, it's completely, this is my personal opinion. I'm just speaking for myself. Everybody else feels differently, and I respect everybody else's opinion. But for me, growing up in the 70s and 80s, collecting cards, and it was all tops. It wasn't Fleer, Donruss, all this stuff. It was tops. It's antithetical to how I grew up, to the whole notion, to the whole system, to send a card in the mail to some random person and then have them tell me what this is worth. Like, this is my card. Yep. I bought it in a pack of Tops in 1983 or whatever. Like,
you know it's real.
You don't tell me what this card is. I know what this card is. You know, I was there. You weren't even born in 1983, so don't even try and like tell me what this is. Yeah. So that's the way, and it's for fun. Like, I never bought these cards for an investment. I don't care what a Marino is worth. I've got 6 Dan Marino rookies.
Sweet.
I've got 6 of them. Okay.
Yeah, those are great.
They're all legit. I bought them in a pack of Top cards in 1983 or 84, whenever it was. I've had them for 37 years now. They're mine. I don't need to send them to someone and pay them whatever 10% or whatever it is to get a grade on. Like, yeah. No. When I give them to my kids, when I die in 50 years and they want to do whatever they want to do with them, that's theirs. But I'm going to keep these things. I'm going to keep good care of them. They're going to be safe. And maybe my kids will enjoy them and hand them on to their kids. And maybe these will be in my family in the year 2170. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm not in it to make money. I don't know what this stuff is worth, and it's not that important to me. It's for fun. Yeah. This was supposed to be for fun. It's not an investment. This is my child. Like, we grew up with Jack Ham and Lambert and Franco and Mean Joe and, you know, Magic and Kareem and Fred Lynn and, you know, Jim Rice and, you know, all that stuff. Like, these are memories. These are reminders of what we grew up loving, and the passion and the baseball game of the week with Joe Garagiola. And, you know, like, it wasn't, you couldn't get it 32 games a night. You know, you couldn't access, like, you had to wait for the box score the next day. And it was only, you know, at bat, run, hits, and RBI. Like, that was it. It wasn't OPS and, you know, left on base and all this stuff. Like, it wasn't the advanced stats. Like, it was a simpler time. And
yes,
I'm a Luddite, but I long for that. That's what I grew up with, and I love it. So
very true.
I've just alienated everyone that's watching, so that's okay.
I think a lot of my viewers tend to be, you know, our age, plus or minus 10 years, but there are a lot of YouTube channels where it's young guys opening packs, seeing what they get, or shipping them off to a grading company, and when they get them back, they show everybody what grades they got on all their cards. And those channels, by the way, have a lot more viewers than mine.
Well,
that's more popular.
I've got a friend who's another fantasy baseball guy, and he sent me this tonight.
Which version is that? Does that have the word, or is it blacked out?
Well, I don't know exactly what's going on with this, but he described it as, this is what he wrote, and I'm not going to use profanity, but I think I know what you're talking about. He said, treated myself to a Jim Mint F face.
Yep.
And he said, iconic, with an exclamation mark. I assume there's some story here. I don't know, but I'm guessing it has something to do with the expletive that's been deleted. And anyway, so this friend of mine, he has invested in some, I think there's a young Cubs shortstop from the Dominican Republic, maybe, by the name of Christian Hernandez. And he's like 17. And they signed him in the international bonus signing period last year or something, and he may be a great player. Who knows? He's 17. But I think he told me once he spent like $130 on that guy's card, you know, in some whatever. I don't know who's publishing a card of a 17-year-old, but whatever. And I just thought, you know, he's a Hall of Famer. He won 4 Super Bowls, and he's not worth $130. This doesn't make any sense to me. Now, maybe Christian Hernandez will be the greatest shortstop in history. Honus Wagner, Babe Ruth, and Mike Trout rolled into one. Good luck.
Yeah.
But $130 for a 17-year-old, and I get it. Like, it's a speculative thing, and maybe he'll flip it for $250 in a year and make $120, and that's a great profit. I don't know. But again, like I said, that's not how I view this industry. It's not about profit. It's not about investment. It's about fun and, you know, memories and celebrating your heroes. So anyway, one of the other things I showed you before we went on air, and I'll pull it up here because we wanted to talk about this. Here it is. Okay, so I have these two Barry Bonds rookie cards
Yep.
from '87, I guess. And I was telling you this, so I'll share this with your listeners because I think we did this before we started. I just Googled, Barry Bonds rookie cards just to see. And apparently there's somebody on eBay. And of course, I know that this isn't really what the market says, but this person on eBay said that they're selling a Barry Bonds rookie for $9,000 because there's a flaw or a mistake. And apparently what they said is the mistake is in the letter or in the number 3 in the number on the back. So as you can see with my number 3 there, I can't aim this right because left is right and right is left. The 3 and the 320 there is missing the bottom of the 3, and my other card is the same way. It's got a little glare there. There you go. So you can see both of those.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is the same mistake that he's referring to. I certainly don't know if these are $9,000 cards. I can't imagine they are.
No.
That's a joke, right? But anyway, to get back to my earlier theme, I've had this card for 30 years, and I'm not going to sell it for $9,000. Obviously, I'm not going to sell it for $500. I don't even know what it's worth. But this is the stuff I have, and I'm like I said, I'm just going to hold on to it. And I remember going with you to was it the Coliseum? Is that what it's called?
Yes, it used to be called the Coliseum. Now it's the Multicultural Center, but yes.
And I remember, like, I have got a couple cards here. I bought at that card show. So we got a YA Tittle. We got a. This is messing me up because it's mirrored. Stan Musial. We got a Killebrew. We got a Ted, and we got a Sherm Lawler.
Nice.
There's a story behind Sherm Lawler, which I'll tell you in a second. But these are cards that are in poor. I mean, I don't know. They're not in good condition. They're cards that were not in good condition when I bought them, and they're not in good conditions. And obviously, these are advanced cards. So this is, Stan the Man in 1959. He's been in the majors for 20 years. Ted Williams, this is late in his career. Killebrew late in his career. So these aren't rookies. These aren't, whatever. But I bought him because I wanted to have a Stan Musial card. Like, that's Stan the Man. Like,
yeah.
And I didn't need I don't think there was a rookie card. I don't think they made baseball cards when he was a rookie, but whatever year they started making, the entire roster of the Major League Baseball, this was long after that, but I didn't buy it because I was looking to get a rookie or anything. I wanted, because, hey, I got a Stan Musial card. That's pretty cool.
So here's my Barry Bonds.
Same thing. There you go.
Missing part of the 3. $9,000. Thank you very much.
Yeah, whatever, right? It's
he just needs one person to buy it, and
I guess I don't know.
There's a Mark Jackson card around 1990 time frame, and the Menendez brothers are in the front row, courtside, in the front row in the background on the card.
Okay.
The notorious Menendez brothers.
Right.
And that card actually commands quite a premium just from the morbid collectors out there.
Oh my goodness sakes. It has nothing to do with Mark Jackson.
No. Nope. Not at all.
I gotta let me see here. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this book or not, Eric. You and I would look at this book from time to time.
I don't remember it.
So,
but it sounds like something. Looks like something I'd read.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a Sports Illustrated book. It was published in 1974, and so it's here it is.
Vince DiMaggio, the third brother.
Some reflections on a baseball card childhood, which is right up your alley and my alley, right? So what he does is he's got pages. Oh, and you know what? My book has been paged through so many times, one of the pages just fell out. But this is an example. So he's got, what is that? Sam Jones and Chris Cannizzaro. And then he'll have just some paragraphs about those players. And it'll be about the card, or it'll be about, you know, them as a player or what they were like or anything like that. And it's mostly random players, you know, not the, you know, the Joe DiMaggios and the Mickey Mantles of the world, but it's random players, and it's a love letter. It's a, you know,
Sure.
this is my childhood, you know, much like you and I have gone through. But anyway, I want to find he kind of throws you a curveball in the middle of the book here, and I want to find it because it's very funny. So give me 1 second here while I get to that here. This isn't what I was looking for, but this is an example. So Albie Pearson, who's I don't know who that player is, but here's the commentary at the bottom here. Albie Pearson would have been, had he been only 6 inches taller, almost 5'11". Here he is standing next to his favorite bat, Merle. So that's the sort of stuff, right? It's just, I don't know who that player was. You know, he's not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but it's just funny. And there's a lot of little trivia and, you know, goofy stuff here. But give me one moment, because I gotta find what I'm looking for here. So I read this book from cover to cover many times. You and I talked about it. Oh, here we go. So he's got a page here. Okay, so let's start up here with Walt Williams, who he talks about various. How do I see? This is screwing me up because it's mirrored, so I keep wanting to go right is left and left is right.
I'm doing the same thing.
Someday there'll be nostalgia for the 70s, as hard as it may be to realize now. And when that day, I'll be ready. And he names off some players. And then he talks about Don McMahon is 54 years old. Rick Reichard only had one kidney. Hoyt Wilhelm had his head screwed on sideways. Denny McLean really did all those things. And yes, Virginia, Walt Williams had no neck. And his legs weren't particularly long either. So that's just the sort of funny stuff here, right? So then you go to the next page.
There you go.
In a baseball card book, it's Johnny Unitas. And this is what he said. He's like, I can't make this line up right. Here we go. Just wanted to see if you were still paying attention. All kidding aside, though, this one is hard to resist. Why do you think Johnny U looks that way anyway? Is he stoned? Is his hair too tight? Has he been dropped on his head by Leo Nominelli? And do my eyes deceive me, or is the outline of his skull, from the slope of his jaw to the sum of his brush-cut nerve ends, a perfectly realized set of 90-degree angles? Ah, football, a savage business. I mean, look at that skull. Isn't that a square head?
Yeah. Most of his career, he had a buzz cut like that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this was a book that you may not remember, but you and I, we would talk about this book and have fun with it. So anyway, it's kind of fun. So that's the way I view baseball and football cards. It's nostalgia. It's, you know,
Yep.
it's learning about the players, the trivia on the back, you know, all that stuff.
Yep. No, I'm with you. But, you know, being a modern collector, I do have to adapt to the times a little bit. You know, I got this one in the mail today.
Oh, nice.
It's all about the shine these days.
Is it? Okay.
This is Chris Sale. It's called a pink mosaic.
Okay. So what do they call that effect on the card? Is that like a diamond effect or a?
This is mosaic.
Mosaic.
Because it's a bunch of little cells. If you.
Yeah.
But refractors, that's the name that's used for cards that when you hold them in the light, and I got one here,
sure,
that they kind of show you can see the rainbow.
Okay.
Have you seen a card like that?
I'm sure I have. Do you remember? I think it was it Wonder Bread or Hostess? Okay.
See how the rainbow, the lights of the rainbow kind of go across it?
Yeah, it's like a prism almost. Yeah.
Yeah, those are called refractors.
Do you remember back in the 70s? I think it was either Wonder Bread or Hostess. I don't remember. They had baseball cards that were small, tiny little ones. They were this tall and this wide,
Yeah,
and they were like 3D. As you turned the card, the player
yeah,
kind of moved. Do you remember those?
yeah.
I
Those were Kellogg's.
was it okay. I knew it
Yeah,
was one of the whatever we got as
Hostess.
kids.
Hostess had cards then too that you'd cut off the back of your box of ho-hos or whatever.
Ah, okay.
But they didn't have that 3D effect to them. But it was Kellogg's that had those.
I still have a couple of those somewhere. I don't know where, but
Are they chapped or are they? Because after a while they crack. They've dried
probably.
out over the years. But if you've got one that hasn't cracked yet, that's pretty cool.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I might
they're
have
not
it
worth a
somewhere.
fortune, but
Yeah.
they're fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have it somewhere downstairs and in a box somewhere gathering
Hmm.
dust. But
Do you have any modern cards at all?
I think this Randy Moss is the newest thing
The
I've
newest
got.
one?
I did just I know you and I talked about this. Topps did their 70-year
Yeah, top 70.
and they did a reissue with Trout and some other players, and I bought 4 or 5 of those. It was like a set, and that's and then afterwards, I think I asked you about it, and you're like, oh, that's really not worth much. They do that every year or whatever, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, I guess I wasted my money, but whatever.
Yeah,
It was cool. But no, other than that, all my stuff is pretty old. I've got let's see here. I've got some more some old Peytons here.
nice.
So I think those are 77 and 78. So
That's a Phil Simms rookie there.
yeah, Phil Simms rookie who didn't quit turn out.
Did you have an LT rookie that I saw with the Marinos?
Let's see here. Yeah, I think so.
It was down in the corner peeking out at us.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah. Let's see here. I got some OJs. Let's see, where is this?
Ooh, that's a page of Hall of Famers there.
Yeah, so I got a couple of Staubachs, a couple of OJs, some mid '80s or late '80s Marinos and Moons, and then some old time baseballs. These guys are. Well, actually, that's Ozzy's 3rd year. That's Murray's 5th year, and then that's like Murray's or Dave Winfield's like 7th or 8th year. So they're well into their careers at that point.
I like Dave Winfield on the Padres cards. I like those.
I got a Mattingly rookie here, which was worth a lot back in the day, but isn't anymore. I got a Clemens rookie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something. A few Randy Whites, who most people don't know who that is anymore.
Yep, Joe Green.
That's not a Boggs rookie, but it's relatively early in his career. And then Mean Joe. So
those are good cards.
Yeah, I got 4 Dickerson rookies here.
Nice.
So I got those. Again, Koufax, that's not worth any. I'm sure it's not worth anything. It's not early in his career, but it was one of those things where I just wanted to have a Koufax card, right?
Yeah, that was sweet.
Seaver and McCovey, late in their career, and then I got a late Reggie. That's late in his career also. So
yeah, but look at the swing. Look at the pose on that. On the Reggie.
I can't turn it. I can't figure out. Yeah.
I mean, that ball's gone. If he hit that, it's gone.
It better be, because with that mechanics, he's either striking out or he's hitting a home run. There's not a lot on that one. I thought I had a Ricky Henderson rookie card. I might somewhere, but I think these are like 2nd and 3rd years. Late Namath, I think this is second year Peyton. That is not a Montana rookie, obviously. Where is it here? And then I've got a Ronnie Lott.
Ronnie Lott,
that's a Ronnie Lott rookie, for what it's worth. So
did you page these up just for tonight, or have they always been like that?
My mom put all of these in these pages probably 20 years ago or more, 25 years ago.
Oh, you can't take them out then. You got to leave them in there.
Nope. I tell you, my mom had, everybody's got their flaws, but she was a wonderful person. And she took it upon herself to go through a lot of my cards, put them in these, pages, sleeves, And then she'd go and do the Beckett's search and, put a little note on there. I've still got some, where's my Joe Green here? There's a little note here from my mom.
You kidding me? Sweet.
1974, number 40, Joe Green, and she's got $5 written next to it, which probably came from some, Beckett guide or something. It certainly wasn't from the internet because it was all books back then. So she took time to look it up. And, back then it was, $5 if it's in mint. We only had mint and mint and wood and fair or whatever. It was only like 3 categories, right? It wasn't 1 to 10. And I don't know that this is a mint card. I have no idea, but whatever. So I've told you this story before, but I'll add it to our video here. I'm not going to name names, but there was a person that my parents were good friends with his parents, and so I kind of grew up knowing this gentleman, and he was a little older than I was, and he had all these cards. All of my football cards from probably 75 and before were his. And I used to love going over to his house. He'd show me his cards. You'd flip through them. Like, they weren't in sleeves. They were just in piles. And I remember one year for Christmas, his parents were going to come to my house with him, and we were going to have a holiday party with the families. And I asked my parents to ask his parents if they'd bring along his football cards. And I'll never forget this image. They literally walked into my house with a brown paper grocery bag with all of the cards in, packages like this thick, wrapped in rubber bands. And they brought them
rubber bands.
In rubber bands. And they brought them along. And I remember they handed me this brown paper bag. And they're like, here you go. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I was 7 or 8 years old, right? I'm like, I'm going to look through them all, and then I'll give them back to you. And they're like, no, you can have them.
Woo-hoo.
And I was like, what? And it was clearly one of these things where the parents were like, kid, you're older now. We're getting rid of your cards. Like, these are junk. Get rid of them. And they gave me them all.
Wow.
That was 43, 44, 45 years ago. I have kept them all. They are all here. And I have half a mind to someday, if I ever sell them for whatever I get, which won't be much, but whatever, like, go find him and say, here's your half. Like, these were your cards, and I have been the steward of your cards for 45 years. And he probably doesn't even remember. I haven't talked to him in forever. He probably doesn't even give a crap about any of this stuff. But I feel like this obligation, like his parents, parents sometimes get rid of your old stuff and you're like, I really wanted that stuff. Like, he probably was upset at the time. Like, these are my cards and you take them away. And I feel this obligation. Like, I've held on to them. These are yours. Like, I will split them with you. Like,
I don't think I've heard that story. I always assumed they were your older siblings' cards because a lot of those they're before our time. So I just assumed that they were siblings.
70, 71, 72, 73 football cards, which I was, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. So I clearly wasn't going to the store and buying football cards. No, they all came from this family friend. I'm not going to say his name, but I know where he's at. I can contact him if I need to. He's around, and I haven't talked to him in 40 years. Probably. He's much.
Would I know the name?
I'm sorry?
Would I know the name?
I think you would. I've talked about him in the past.
Okay.
But I could find him, and yeah. So if he's watching, if he ever hears about this, like, I still got him, man. I'm keeping good track of them. They're still safe. I didn't throw them in a dumpster. Like, they're. Now, you and I collected Star Wars cards. Remember that?
Yes.
Do you still have yours?
I do. You want to see them?
I'd love to. Yes.
Do you still have yours?
And my parents made me sell them at a rummage sale.
Oh.
Yeah. There was the green, the red, the yellow. Wasn't there a blue series also?
Yep.
There you go. Yep. Oh my God.
So
awesome. So I got to come to your house and see these, man. I want to see these in person. This is awesome.
I got the whole set.
Oh, that is great.
And then they turned to red.
Okay. And then there was a yellow at some point, I think, wasn't there? Or a green? I remember yellow series.
Yellow was third.
Okay. There you go. Oh, Grand Moff Tarkin. Nice. That is awesome.
His rookie card.
Peter Cushing in his rookie year.
Then they went green.
There you go. I knew there was green. Oh man.
And these are all
cool.
1977.
Oh, that is so cool that you still have those.
And then here is orange.
Ooh, I don't remember orange.
They were Series 5, 1977.
I might have, maybe I had them and I forgot, or maybe I gave up by then, but wow.
So you sold yours. That's a bummer.
My neighbors across the street had a rummage sale, and we took some things over to, it was like a neighborhood thing. And I remember my parents saying, you got to take them over there and sell them. And we did. And I probably got $2 for them, right? What are they worth? Are they worth something?
If they're, mine are all rubber band evident and bad corners. Mine's not worth anything, but in mid condition, they're good. Good price.
What about those Burger King glasses over your shoulder? Are they worth something?
This was my favorite one with the lightsabers. And then you remember the puzzle on the back?
Yeah, you put them all together, and it was like 30 or something like that. If you got all 30 of them, you'd have a puzzle. Oh, totally. Yep. If you strike me down.
Yeah. So also, we are the perfect age for Star Wars. We were 6 years old when the first came out.
Yep.
First one came out. Just old enough to go to the theater and see it.
Yep.
And then we're old enough to remember everyone since.
Well, and it was different back then because it wasn't Chapter 4. It was Star Wars. It wasn't A New Hope. It was Star Wars. We didn't call it by Episode 4 or New Hope or any of that stuff. It was just and you had to wait 3 years for Empire Strikes Back. We had to wait. So we endlessly talked about it. We endlessly played it out in our heads. We collected all the stuff. I remember belt buckles and T-shirts and iron-ons and the cards and the action figures. And I had a Star Wars toothbrush, all this crazy stuff. It was insane. Those are nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
My mom, when she gave these to me a few years ago and said, "Here, if you want them, you got to take them." Did your mom ever have that talk with you?
Oh, yeah.
She went to the trouble of finding some restorer cleaner, some kind of cleaner, something you put on them to restore the original color, because years of dishwasher, they were getting kind of...
Yeah, because we drank from these. We didn't buy them to collect them for 50 years. See, that's the one I have. I have that one. I think it's upstairs or up in my cupboards in the kitchen. I have that one. But I don't think I've got the other ones. I had them at one point, but I don't know what happened to them.
And they came with a plastic lid and a spot for the straw to go in.
Well, and that's lead paint and lead glass. Like, that's probably, if your kids drank from that as a youngster, you'd get brain damage. Like, that's
really,
that was back before the world changed. So
I just kind of keep those out. I don't have a lot of my action figures anymore. Do you still have those?
I do.
I sold a lot of them on a garage sale.
In fact, they're right here.
Yeah, I don't think I have any.
I got 3PO. I got a Tusken Raider. Of course, I've got Han.
Oh, yeah.
Over the table there, I can see I've got Leia. I've got a generic Imperial officer. I've got Greedo. I've got, I think that's Hammerhead. I got a couple others around here, too. So, and here we go. I got your run-of-the-mill Stormtrooper.
Nice.
I got Obi-Wan. Somewhere along the line, I lost his cape, but he had a cape. And then I've got Luke with the hole in his hand for the lightsaber. So
do you still have any of the lightsabers or the guns?
I might. But
those would get lost so easy.
I made a point to hold on to them, but they might be somewhere in a box downstairs. I also have. Whoa! That just destroyed everything. What is that?
Modern Star Wars cards.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're making them again, and they're, including some of the less popular characters in them.
Right.
But yeah, they still make Star Wars cards. Here's a good one. Some of them are based on images from the books.
Okay.
You know, not from scenes you didn't see in movies, but they're in the canon. Well, they were in the canon until Disney wiped out the canon.
So this is a first edition of the Star Wars novel by George Lucas. My mom.
Nice.
So, and it's got like Biggs and Wedge, who kind of got edged out in the movie. But first edition.
Yeah. Rumor has it they're on the editor's floor somewhere.
Yeah.
They got cut off.
Well, and there's some photos in here, actually. In fact, here, because there's a picture from, where is it here? Is it in here? Hold on. There's a picture here of Luke and I thought it was in here. Maybe I'm confusing with something else. I thought there was a picture in here of Luke and either Biggs or Wedge that didn't make the movie.
I think that like in one of the remakes, they included some of those missing scenes, you know, in the special features.
Right.
But like Jabba the Hutt was originally a human.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just a fat guy. Well, I don't know. I remember seeing it somewhere, but anyway, so I've got this, and you know, I've had it for 44 years now, and just another one of those things you hold on to. So
yeah, and you got your Star Wars shirt on there, I see too.
Yeah, this one's a new one, but I got a whole bunch of them. So there was a time when my kids were, you know, we went through all the movies. We haven't watched Revenge of the Sith episode 3 yet because it's a little nasty. And my kids are still a little young. But my oldest, he and I, you know, episode 7, Force Awakens, we went to in the theater. Episode 8, you know, we went in the theater. Episode 9, we went in the theater. You know, Solo and Rogue One and all that stuff. So we made a point. You know, he was old enough that we could go watch opening night on each of those. So that was a fun little tradition we had. But you know, we've got the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett's new series. I don't know if you guys
starting
us, but that's coming out right around Christmas. The Obi-Wan series has been rumored for a long time. I don't know if that's official.
Yeah. Is Mandalorian going to do a season 3?
I don't know. I hope so. You know, that. Did you watch that whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah. The end with Luke coming in.
They could end it. They could end it right there.
They could, and that would make sense. I mean, I'm satisfied. You know, I don't expect it to go for 10 years or anything like that. But that final episode when Luke, you know, the CGI Luke comes in and just rocks. I think about the scene in Rogue One where at the end Darth Vader, you know, is trying to stop the plans from getting stolen, and he's just ripping people, you know, and it's kind of. It's been a dream since I was 6 years old, right? To see these guys just ripping through people. Like, let a Jedi be a Jedi and just rip, just crush people, right? Like, just go through. I mean, Luke boards and he's got all those, whatever those droids were, whatever, that are super, like, they're just crushing the Mandalorian, right? He's gotten his butt kicked by them, and Luke just comes through and he's just force shooting them and ripping them apart, and just I was like, oh, this is like I've been waiting for this for 45 years now. It's cool. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think you ever get into Star Trek? I forget. A little bit?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I've been a Trekkie. I was watching the original series when I was 3 years old with my older brother. So that's
wow
for me. The TOS, TNG, I watched you know, DS9, I watched Voyager. I didn't get into Enterprise. I didn't get into a couple of the other series, but now I'm into Discovery, which I don't know if you've watched any of.
I haven't gotten into that one yet.
You got to be a subscriber to. It used to be CBS. Now it's Paramount Plus. But Amazon's got Discovery on there right now, and I don't know how much longer it's going to last. So I'm trying to binge it while it's still available. But but no, I've always been. I know there are people out there that are like, it's either Star Wars or Star Trek. You can't be both. I'm both. And frankly, Trek was first. So, um, but yeah, no, TNG has always been my, favorite TV series. I mean, I loved all
Mm-hmm.
7 seasons and the movies and whatnot. So yeah, I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I'm both.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Yeah.
Did you ever get into Star Trek? You were never into
Oh
Star Trek.
yeah.
Were you?
Pardon me?
Were you into Star Trek as much as I was?
I got into it as an adult.
Okay.
Yeah. So I, was able to get DVD sets and watch through the stuff I hadn't watched so much of as a kid.
Okay. So
I've watched every episode of everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Including Enterprise and all that?
Yep.
How would you rank all the different series?
I like Voyager the best.
Okay.
Just the concept.
Yeah.
Of being out there trying to get home. At the end of every season, you're like, maybe they get home today because there won't be another season. You just never knew.
Sure.
Some of the character development, the doctor. I mean, who doesn't like the doctor?
Yeah. I liked him too.
He was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was also in Stargate, if you watch that series.
I never did, but I was aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, but he's just a brilliant actor. Is it Robert Picardo? Is that his name?
Yeah.
So I would put that first. Probably the Next Generation second.
Okay.
The first 3 seasons I wish I could throw out. It didn't really get good until some of those time twister episodes in season 4, later season 3.
Season 1 doesn't have much. Season 2 with Pulaski's kind of hit and miss. I thought season 3, I mean, Sins of the Father, the one where Worf goes back and challenges his discommendation or whatever with the whatever the other family was. And yesterday's Enterprise. Those 2 for me are top of the list for all-time TNG episodes. And there's a few others in season 3, and then of course season 4 with the best of both worlds. Cliffhanger is, I mean, they could have taken that and made it into a cinematic theater,
sure.
And it would have rocked. I mean, that was some epic TV.
Data is just such an, Brent Spiner's a brilliant actor also.
Did you watch Picard?
No.
The series, okay. So nope. the 2 new ones on CBS All Access or whatever, they did Picard last year or whatever, which I thought was really good. They brought back Jonathan Frakes. They brought back Marina Sirtis. I'm sure Data appears at one point or another, but I don't remember off the top of my head where he's at in that. That was pretty good. But if you ever get a chance, I thought, and I'm still watching Discovery, Star Trek Discovery is the season 1. There's a captain, and I won't give you any details because I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a captain of that ship for most of season 1 who I might rank as my number 1 all-time favorite Starfleet captain.
Oh wow!
And it's not because he's good. He's Machiavellian. He is ruthless, and I love that about him. Some of these Picard and Kirks and Cisco's are all Janeways. They're all, just pure, and I'm so honest.
Yes.
And I'll never
following the prime directive to the letter.
This guy is like, I'm going to do what I have to do, and I don't care. And
what's the time frame?
So Discovery takes place early. It's probably between Enterprise and the old series, I don't know exactly how those line up, but like the Klingon Empire is not unified yet, so we're still seeing them start to kind of get their stuff together. So it's in that time period. Of course, the ship, we're making a TV series in the year 2019, so things look a lot better than 1967 old, the old series. But generally speaking, it's that period of time in the formation of the Federation. But like I said, that captain, and then in season 2 of Discovery, the captain is Christopher Pike.
Okay.
Most of the season, and he's phenomenal. The character obviously is a legendary character in the Star Trek canon, and then the guy they got to play him is amazing and did a nice job. And I'd have to rank him up there pretty high in my all-time favorite captains as well. So so if you ever get a chance to watch it, I'm in season 3 now. I'm early on. I know there's more beyond this that I'm still catching up on. So probably some people watching us right now have made it much farther, but I'm really liking it. It's fun. Enterprise with was that the one with Scott Bakula?
Yes,
the captain. I watched the first episode, and I know there's a little bit of cliffhanger because he gets like abducted or something. I don't remember, on some space station or something. And I know there's a lot more than that. I guess it's because it was filmed in the early 2000s, and so many TV series from that period of time really don't hold their age very well.
Yeah.
So I had a tough time with it. I probably should go back and give it a chance.
Well, there's the reason it only ran a couple seasons, right? I mean,
yeah.
It and the original were the only two to be discontinued.
Involuntarily.
Yeah.
So
Deep Space Nine. The thing I like about Deep Space Nine is that they're stuck there. They can't go around. They get Worf's ship later on, but for the first couple seasons, they're stuck there. Everything's got to come to them.
It's the complete opposite of the Voyager, right? Like they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
But because they're kind of stuck there, I think the characters, there's much more depth to the characters in Deep Space Nine than the rest of them. You know so much more about them.
Odo, Kira, Cisco, Michaels, Quark.
I mean, even the Cardassian that works in the suit store, you'd end up learning everything about him.
Yeah, well, and he used to be a secret agent, a Secret Service guy or whatever. So he knew all the intrigue and all that stuff. Yeah, and the Doctor, Bashir and Dax and all that stuff. They definitely had a lot of depth, and it wasn't. I mean, TNG, you Picard back and forth, Data back and forth, but you never really got a lot on LaForge or Crusher or any of those folks, right? Whereas top to bottom on DS9, you really got to know 7 or 8 major characters in great depth, and that was pretty cool. And then what is it? Is it the Dominion that they wind up fighting in the end?
Yeah, they bring the Dominion in halfway through the series, and the Volta, and just some really great races.
That would rank up there with the Borg as one of the most terrifying, irresistible force enemies that you're like, how do we defeat an enemy like this? And I never finished DS9. I made it through probably season 5 or thereabouts, and I think it went on two more seasons after that, or 3 more. And I probably should go back and try and pick up. I'll have to refresh myself because it's been a long time, but
it's a good ending. They really caught their mojo by season 5, 6.
Yeah.
And they're going into the wormhole regularly, and things happen on the other side. I won't ruin for you, but it gets really good.
The Delta Quadrant, or what was that? The other quadrant that they keep.
I think they were I think that wormhole led to the Gamma Quadrant.
Okay, they were.
I think Voyager was in the Delta Quadrant.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I should go back. Too many TV shows, too little time, right?
Yeah. I know it.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, we've been going 2 hours. It kind of flew.
We could go all night, right? You and I. Every time we hang out, it's
time flies.
We've got, you and I have a long history, so there's a lot.
45 years.
We haven't scratched the surface on a lot of stuff, but I hope this was worthwhile for you, and I hope whoever winds up watching this, find something to keep them going. You ever think about planning an Easter egg at the end of an episode just to test whether or not anybody made it this far?
I do that. I will hold contests.
Okay.
And I won't announce them until the end. And I'll say, my last one, I said, saw it in if you saw this at the end here. And then anybody that commented, I saw it, got in a drawing for a free card.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think here if there's any little in joke that you and I have from back in the day that
I'm sure there are.
You know what the one that I always think about And
I don't know.
I know you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Vacation Bible School.
Vacation Bible School. Oh, yes. I remember that. That's a good story.
We don't need to go any further if we don't want to, but for your viewers, if anybody can come up with that, that's pretty random. You had to watch to this point to know that one. So
yes, that's a good one. That's a good Easter egg. Well, thanks, Tom. I appreciate you stopping in the card closet tonight.
Awesome.
It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
We'll be talking regularly going forward, but I'm sure my audience here appreciates getting to know you a little bit better too, and seeing that you have a lot in common with them too. So
I hope so. Well, good. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
You betcha. Take care.
All right.